Good evening, everyone. Welcome to And Academy's UX UI Design webinar. I am Shubhangi and I'm part of the branding and communications team at and I'll be your host for the evening. Before we dive right into the presentation, I would like to talk a little bit about what is it that we do at and why do we do it and how do we do it. So AND is a one-of-a-kind design upskilling platform which was launched by the Indian Institute of Art and Design, which is a brick and mortar design school based in New Delhi in Okhla. Uh, and actually comes from that design of imparting design education, that experience of imparting design education. And we offer professional courses in the domains of graphic design, interior design, and UX UI design, which is what we'll be discussing today. Uh, People from all backgrounds come and join our courses. So you may or may not come from a design background, but our courses are built in a way that you can build your expertise incrementally. Uh, so you start from the very basics, fundamentals of design, and then you go on to build that sort of skill and expertise. Our courses are delivered in a live and interactive manner, and they are optimized in a way that you can learn and work together. So it is also for people who might be in their graduation courses or are working. So our courses are designed in a way that you can learn and work together. We combine expert mentorship, practical training, and industry exposure so you can just hit the ground running whenever you graduate. Today, this webinar is led by our head of academics, Ms. Prachi Mittal. I would like to introduce her. A designer, educator, and researcher, Prachi brings 20 plus years of industry and academy experience to the table. Her practice spans the disciplines of product design, social design, publication design, and design management. Her expertise lies in curriculum development, strategic use of pedagogy and technology, and academic processes for design education. A graduate from NIFT New Delhi, she has also completed a PG certification in higher education from Kingston University, London. Yeah. Okay, so we are going to follow a certain flow for this webinar. As you can see, that is what is on the slide right now. So we'll take the questions at the end of the webinar. So if you have any questions during the webinar presentation, I would recommend that you put it in the Q&A box and not in the chat box so that we can answer them systematically. Over to you, Prachi ma'am.
Thank you, Shubhangi, and good evening, everybody. I can already see a couple of familiar names, people who have met me during their interview process. So, thank you for joining us. And let's quickly dive into uh, today's agenda with just trying to understand what really is UX UI. Because one of the things that I have observed over the years is uh, that there's a lot of misconception or a half understanding of what really UX UI is. Everybody wants to be part of this profession because it seems to be trending and it's something which is new. But to be honest, it has been here for many, many years. Uh, Earlier, it was known as product design, and now it is called as user experience, user interface design. So let's get into that. And these are a couple of statements that I hear when I ask candidates who apply for our courses that what do you understand by UX UI? So they say that it is about the overall experience, about how a user feels. The user interface is about how it looks. Then you probe further, and then they will say that it is not just about visual design. We have to do research, and then we should think about which color people like, what font is good, so that they can feel good about how this is. Sometimes people tell me that whenever I interact with an app, I get ideas. This should have been like this, it should have been done like this, so I think I'll be a good UX UI designer, and so on and so forth. Or I enjoy looking at applications and websites, and I always get ideas around how to improve them. uh, so all of this is fine, none of this is wrong, what you see on the screen. but it is incomplete. It is not, it doesn't fully explain really what UX UI is. So this is what I normally do when I have to understand anything. I go back to the dictionary. I take that phrase, I break it into parts, and I try and look up the dictionary meaning of each of the words, and then I try and string them together or piece them together, join them to formulate my definition. That's exactly what we'll do right away. So user is a person who uses or operates something. Experience is when something happens to you. That's when it's an experience. When you are doing something, when you're feeling something, all of that is part of experience. Not only the feeling, you're acting in it, you are doing something, you're thinking, all of that becomes part of your experience. But what is design? And this is the dictionary meaning of design, that it is the act of planning or making something, but with the specific purpose in mind, right? That is very important, because we sometimes use design very loosely, the word design. We sometimes use it like a noun. So we also call this a design on, it's a motif, it's a print, it's a pattern, but we also use design there. But design is also a verb, an action word. So in that case, it is planning or making something, but it's not just making something. Every time making something, but with a specific purpose in mind, right? That's when it becomes design. So when you add all of this up, what is the definition of user experience design that emerges? It is an intentional process. I intend to achieve something. I have a preconceived purpose to, to this, of creating a product, service, environment. It can be any of those. It's not restricted to digital products or physical products. It is also service and environment uh, that you can design or create that addresses specific needs of its operators, right? So that is where what we said, that when you create something or make something with a specific purpose in mind. So you have your users, and you are creating something to meet specific needs of those users or operators in order to stimulate an intended response. So you've not just created it, but you have a specific response in mind. And that response can be emotional, that response can be functional. So it can be that I want them to feel happy about it. It can be that as well, but it can be more specific. Often it is more specific, right? In order to stimulate an intended response, right? Maybe a lot of mumbo jumbo, but I have an example to share later, which will hopefully explain or illustrate that definition with But let's now look at what is interface, because we use these two words together: UX, UI, user experience, user interface. So I'm doing the same thing to understand user interface, that I'm picking up the definition of interface. If you go to the dictionary, this is what an interface is: a surface, a means through which two systems interact, right? So you and I are right now interfacing or interacting through the interface of Zoom, right? So what we see on the screen, the Zoom platform, that interface. But what is our experience? Our experience is beyond what you just see. It is a means through which you are seeing or receiving information, seeing me, seeing my screen, hearing my voice. So interface is also actually not only restricted to visual, it is also uh, your, it can be tactile also. It can be, if it is a physical product, you can touch it. But right now it is audio and visual both, right? So that is interface. The platform or the means, the surface through which two different parts of a system connect, make contact, or interact. So on the ATM machine, the screen and what you press, where you press your touchpad, that becomes your interface. In the microwave, the panel from where you operate, that becomes your interface. In a toaster, it may not be electronic, you are manually operating, you press it down, you adjust your knob, that becomes the interface. In the remote, that becomes your interface, the surface of it. On your phone, the screen becomes your interface, right? But your experience, though you experience that product through the interface, the experience is beyond just what you experience, what you see on your or hear on that interface, right? But it contributes to your overall experience. Okay. So is user interface therefore about making something beautiful or attractive? Because we're saying that we want people to feel good, get a good emotional response from their user experience, and we interact through the interface. So let's make it feel good. So let's make it pretty. Let's make it beautiful. Do you think it's just that? It's not just that, because I can have a pretty looking remote, but I can struggle with it when I have to figure out that I want to increase the brightness, because now I've switched off my lights. I want to adjust the brightness. And I start struggling with the how do I do it? Where do I go? How do I, which one do I press to increase or decrease? Uh, I want to change the channel. And now I'm using the remote to operate my OTT platforms as well. And every platform has a slightly different interface. So there are two interfaces, this what you see on the screen, and you are operating through the remote. I can get confused. Now that remote can look beautiful, right? But I get confused. And that is not great communication. So user interface design is therefore about creating effective communication that makes the user product interaction easy. It is easy, and the next is compelling. So there is a feature which you want me to engage with, but I don't find it on my remote. My TV has the feature that it can adjust its light according to the its brightness according to the lighting of my room. That feature has been built into my television. Uh, but I need to switch it on. And I don't know where, I don't even know, I can't even find that feature. I'm not aware of it. Or to activate that feature is complex for me. So I will never activate it. So my experience, even though technology has been built into my television for it to automatically adjust the brightness of the screen according to the light conditions, I will never end up using that feature. And that therefore does not give me the right experience that was designed for me, right? So user interface design is therefore about creating effective communication that makes that interaction easy and compelling. It should encourage me to use that feature or to take that desired action. If Netflix wants me to rate something, if Netflix wants me to save something, can the interface make it compelling for me to do it? And not just make it easy for me to do it. Of course, it needs to be easy, but can you encourage me to do it, nudge me to do it? That is what is the job of user interface design. And therefore, the two are correlated and codependent, right? The next thing to be clear about is that the UX UI design is not limited to digital products. It is also applicable to analog or non-digital experiences, experiences of drinking a coffee in a cafe, experiences of navigating through the airport, where uh, I have to get down from a flight, collect my baggage, maybe book a cab, maybe want to grab a bite because I'm just landed and I'm going to be on a business trip, so I want to grab a quick bite before I go for my meeting. So it doesn't stop at you know creating space for cafes, but where should I place that cafe? How should my signage be so that people can know that there is a cafe available? Or people who don't want to go to the cafe but want to go directly exit out and take a cab, how do I facilitate that? So in the analog space, the UX UI design is also operates, but At and our focus is in the UX UI course is completely on digital experiences. We don't touch upon the analog. The course is too small for us to touch on both analog and digital. So we work on the digital products only. Now, so what is the big deal about UX UI? आ गया बात समझ में? We understand it needs to be effective communication. We understand it needs to fulfill needs. So what is the complexity around it, and why did you need a discipline? Why couldn't it just be communication design? Why couldn't graphic designers do it? Why couldn't just any product designer do it? Or you know, and there's a simple fundamental to it that it takes a human first approach, right? As products are becoming technology driven, there is a high chance that the product development itself takes a technology first approach. What can be created? What is feasible as a technology? In a world which is today driven by capitalism, in a world that is driven by businesses, the business objective can take um, prominence or precedence uh, or priority. So your first priority can be business goals, or you may, when you're designing it, you may take a technology first approach that it beautifully. So like I said, that you've designed a technology that enables the television to adjust its brightness automatically based on the ambient lighting. So you've taken a technology first approach, but and it always does it, you know. But then to realize that sometimes it may not be desirable, or that users need the choice of switching it on or off, or even after ambient lighting, they should have the choice to modify it as per their eyes, is when you take a human first approach, right? And you can again argue with me and say that हाँ ठीक है समझ गए ये बात so कर लेंगे, we will think, we are people, we will think about people, and we'll do it. But I wish it was as simple as that, right? And what does it mean to take a human first approach? I'll just explain this with a story. And this is a real story, I'm not telling a fictional story. And the story unfolds on the railway platforms of Japan. So if you know a little bit about Japan, it's a very fast moving life over there. People work very long hours, and a large section of the population uses their metros, the train services, as their local commuting, right? Now something very interesting was happening, or alarming was happening, on the platforms of Japan, the railway platforms of Japan. And these are not intercity but within the city trains, what we call as metro in India. There was an alarming number of accidents, serious accidents, that were taking place in the platform, on these platforms, where people were falling off or overstepping the platform, falling on the tracks, and getting either fatal injuries, losing their lives, or very serious injuries. And the frequency and the number at which these accidents were happening were quite alarmingly high. Um, and obviously, the establishment in Japan was very keen uh, to to probe into it and rectify it. They didn't want their population, their citizens, to be dying or getting seriously injured about it. So what did they do? They started observing that what is really happening when when something like this is happening. Why is this happening? Is it not clear where the platform is ending? Are our people so depressed that they are having suicidal tendencies? These are all questions. So they started observing, and they observed that people are tired when they come to the platform. They've put in very long hours of work. Also, in Japan, there is a social norm of going for a drink with your colleagues after, or friends, after you finished your office, before you head home. So a lot of times they might be under the influence of alcohol, and they realized that they were either tired or under the influence of alcohol, and they would doze off a little, and their attention was probably not very high. And when the train would appear, or whenever there would be an announcement, or there was a hooter on another platform, but they could hear it here, they would immediately wake up and start walking, thinking that their train had arrived. And when they walk, they would keep walking for like a little while before they would be fully alert that what is happening. Also, but by then the platform had ended and they would have overstepped. Before they gained their state of alertness, and they were just walking towards the train, which they thought that had arrived, they would fall off. Now, they were again curious that why is this happening? Why is still okay? They are not very alert. They're taking this time. Uh, then they probe further and they realize that in Japan, um, keeping up your pretense, keeping up your image, public image is a very important part of the culture over there. That uh, I'm walking straight. I'm not showing that I'm tired or I need help or all of that. Uh, that is very strong. So they would all keep walking straight, uh, and that was adding to this problem. So they realized what is causing this, but now they had to solve it. So if people are gaining their alertness, let's say after taking 20 steps, right? But my platform ends at 15 steps, they fall off. So one solution is that I can increase the length of the platform so that they can take those 20 steps. Another solution can be that let us run a campaign, make people aware of it. Let us put some more security personnel over there. Let them check that nobody is walking, like and crossing over. Let's put a barrier. All of these were options. Let's put signages. Be careful, and so on and so forth. But what they did was a simple solution. I don't know if you can notice this. So the bench where people sit is parallel to the platform edge. They turn the bench around. You're still tired. You're still probably under the influence of alcohol. The train hooter rings. You get up. You start walking. You walk. You walk 20 steps, and before that you bang into another bench and you become alert. Or you don't bang into the bench, but you've become alert and you've realized that this is not the direction I have to walk. I have to walk on the other direction because the train is coming there. But at least what will happen is that you will not fall off the platform. Now this is a solution that was rooted in human behavior. All the other solutions that I listed were also valid solutions. Put up a barrier, run a campaign, put signages, put up security personnel, all very valid solutions. Another valid solution was to increase the width of the platform, but that was going to be like you had to rebuild all the railway platforms and stations. So that was not viable. It was going to take a lot of time and a lot of investment. This solution was rooted in human behavior, that they're going to get up, they're going to walk straight, and they're going to get alert in 20 steps. So let's just increase the distance that they have to walk before the edge of the platform comes. And this is what we call as taking a human first approach, that your solution is rooted within the human behavior. Okay, so what does it involve? It involves thinking about how well does this product meet the user's need, right? So a door, for example, its function is that it creates a temporary barrier between two spaces, right? So a door can serve that purpose very well, right? But how do users interact with the product? That's also important. But how easy or difficult it is for me to figure out whether I have to push or pull the door, or whether I have to turn it, or whether I have to twist it. How do I open the door? That is the usability, the navigation. Can I find how to adjust the or switch on the automatic brightness adjustment? If I have to search for something, is it easy to find? If I have to move from one to the other, from one screen to another, from one function to another, how easy is it for me? That's also something that you have to think about. And finally, how does it make me feel? My emotional needs, my desirability, my pain points. In the previous example of the Japan platforms in Japan, um, I can also create a system where people have to be educated about it, or they shake them up and say that what are you doing, but how does it make them feel? They want to keep up their pretense of holding their identity at that time, or their image at that time. So how do you feed into their emotional needs, their desirability, their pain points? What do they value? All of this is what a user experience, user interface designer has to think about, right? So user experience and user interface is at the intersection of these three circles. It should be desirable for the user, it should be feasible, possible using technology, and it should be viable. It should make sense for the business to implement it. When it meets all these three needs well, is when we say the user experience designer's work has been successful. Okay, so we need professionals who can solve human and business problems and create products that don't look good but work well. So if that is something that you want to do, then you can be a UX UI designer, but it is a complex field. You have to think of a lot of things, all that I spoke about, and therefore it is more than just knowing software. So many times people tell me, I've learned Figma. I can create these screens. I've created these screens. Yeah, they look good. Do they really solve a problem? And how well? Because people will use even products that are not very uh, easy to use, who do not give the delight, but they solve another problem. I need to buy, and this is available on this site. So I will buy it, even if the interface is difficult for me to navigate. I'll do it. But that's not good job on a UX UI designer's front. So many different hats that a UX UI designer wears: that of a researcher to understand my user, that of a planner. Now that I understand my user, I make a plan for how I can solve this problem. For that, I have to be a thinker. I have to think logically. I have to think imaginatively. Sometimes imaginative solutions are required. So I have to be logical about it, and I have to be imaginative about it. Then I should be able to make it, because it can't just remain in my head. I have to be able to make it, and for me to test it. And you have to be a learner constantly with every project that you do, with every testing that you do, with every 10 screens that you create. You learn something about human behavior, you learn something about human and device or technology interaction, and you learn something about what works, what does not work. So you have to be constantly a learner, right? Let's quickly now look at one of our student projects, right? And so this is a project by one of our students from our second batch, Shrikant. And in our course, in the first term, you learn all the fundamentals and you do two small projects which are not very complex, which are uh, low to medium complexity. Uh, and then in the second term, you do two complex projects. So this is one of those two projects that Shrikant did. In the second term, we call them as our capstone projects, where from scratch you try and understand the needs of a user and finish it off with prototypes, right? So Shrikant created this app called I Can Help. It is an app that is targeted towards senior citizens who were working professionals but have now retired. And the purpose of this app is for them to be able to feel meaningful in their life by creating creating an opportunity for them to volunteer for certain services in an easy way, right? So what it does is that it makes them aware of volunteering events uh, specifically for senior citizens. They also get an opportunity to build a community, meet people, because now that they're retired, they miss that continuous engagement with people, and how to encourage them and make it engaging for them, right? So when he started his research, he first started to understand the journey of a retiree senior citizen, and he realized that after retiring they miss their daily connection with colleagues and miss being part of a community, and this separation causes them to feel a sense of loss of purpose. And but they have skills, but they don't want to work now. Their health doesn't allow, or they've been retired now, so they need something that can keep them meaningfully engaged, right? So that's when he looked further, uh, probed further, spoke to a lot of people, tried to understand what are their apprehensions, what is it that they are ready to do. There could be many solutions. Volunteering is one of those. There could have been many other solutions to it also. Uh, he started to list down that what all will he do what all the app might do. But all of this started by understanding the journey of a retiree. So what happens before, then once you retire, there is a honeymoon phase where you enjoy it, but then there is a phase that kicks in where you start feeling useless or detached, or what he calls as disenchantment phase. And then they find new ways of adjusting to this life. And it is at this stage where this app can provide them with a solution, and that leads them to a stability phase. So he did a whole lot of interviews. He had so many things that people shared with him, and these were a couple of inferences that he had, that if you can provide them with resources available after retirement, it can increase the or decrease the length of time that they take to adjust, right? And activities with community and interaction, something that enables them to interact with other people, is something that they really need. So he had done some interviews, he had done some reading, and from there he was able to what we call as listing a problem statement or a statement of purpose, that how can we help our retired citizens to become a part of the working community again, and help them reorient and fulfill their sense of purpose that comes from being part of a community, and where their skills are utilized well, right? So he came up with many different ideas, like I said, um, group fitness classes, online classes, games, educational program, travel groups, and one of them was volunteering, right? He chose to go forward with this idea, and he did that by also doing a quick evaluation of all his ideas, that which was going to be more impactful, right? Now the second level of development, now that he had an idea that he's going to create a volunteering app, now the next step was for him to understand the landscape of volunteering, who all can require volunteering services and what are their needs. So he started that was his second phase of research and analysis. And then he started understanding that if people have to do volunteering, these senior citizens, what are their apprehensions, what kind of things do they worry about, and how can this app help them solve those or take care of those worries, right? So he mapped that when they start thinking of what is their journey before they are volunteering, what are their apprehensions, once they find a volunteering opportunity, what goes through their mind, When they are volunteering, then what happens? They hesitate, there is a resistance, decision making. After volunteering, what do they face? They do, how can you encourage them to repeat the experience? So he really understood the journey that a person will go through when he finally decides to volunteer. Everybody wants to do it, but they were not able to do it. And from this, he was able to take out all the different features that his app should have, all the services that his app should produce or create. From there, he was able to create what we call as a sitemap, that what was going to be the architecture of his app. And then he started creating these, rough ideas. This is what is going to happen, right? From here, somebody will join, then this will happen, then they will log in like this, then they will look at their friend's profile, they will start looking for the events, this is how their event will be, they want to explore, find events, then how will they do it? He started doing all of that, right? And he figured out what were his colors and all of that going to be. But something interesting happened at this stage for Shrikant, and I hope he talks about it here. Let's just scroll down to see. He also found some problems with his. I'm just waiting for this to load. Okay, never mind. We'll move forward. Uh, he discovered a few problems with his wireframes itself, that when he tested it with his users, that they are not able to find this. He thought that it was obvious, or he discovered some very interesting things, that these were very, it was very small, and senior citizens, their fingers start shaking, or so it needs to become a little bigger, and so on and so forth. So he revised all of that before he applied his color and everything into it, right? And then he created the final app, right? And they can discover their purpose and do all of that through this. So where are the achievements? So they get a badge, they get they can share with their community that I did this, they collect some points, they can collaborate with the others in their community and choose to volunteer together, right? Who all are volunteering today? So so you can see that. For some reason, this is not really loading right now for me. Let's try and do this again. Otherwise, you would have seen all the screens. Let's give it a minute. No, it's not loading. Anyways, I can show that to you in a different project as well, that how does that happen, right? This is another project by another student of ours. And here he was creating an app for the gaming community, right? Not for them to play games, but people who create games, for them to interact with each other and find job opportunities. So sort of like a LinkedIn, but for people who create games, right? I'm going to skip through the first part of the project and take you to how he, yeah, this is how he created his app. So he started with his sitemap, his user flow, his wireframes, right? A complicated this thing sitemap. Then he created his wireframes and he did his user testing. And this is what he started discovering, that there are problems. So in the job listing page, users need more clarity and relevant information, right? The information that he was providing was not sufficient, or these tags that he had, they thought these were buttons for them to click. Now you can encounter these kind of simple problems with your product, and they change the user experience. So he changed, he made a provision to add 2 3 lines, or change uh, the component, we call those as UI elements. He changed that so that it conveys the meaning. Another problem that he figured out was that in their profile section, uh, how do they upload their content? That was not clear. The point I'm making over here is that it's not just about coming up with the idea that, okay, let's create a volunteering app for senior citizens, or that, the app should have all these features. But how do you build those features in? Where do you place them so that people get excited about using it, all the features? And the purpose was not that you just get a lot of people to sign up for this app, but people should enjoy it and they should continue to use it for the purpose to give them. He had listed it earlier, we can go back to that. For them to get a sense of purpose, you know work, and become a part of a community. Unless that purpose is met, right, through the app, then the product is, without that the product is not successful, right? So let's go back to this presentation. As you can see now, that it is not just about research, and it's also not just about the visual design. It's everything that actually happens in between, right? And this diagram is something that you can find easily on the internet. So you understand that it's all, everything that is happening in between the research and the visual design. That is where the work of UX UI designers lie. And for that, they collaborate with a lot of other people. You can sometimes have a separate research team. Sometimes you will do a little bit of research, or you will have a more dedicated research team. You will work with a sales and marketing team, which will provide you with insights about how customers or users are responding to your product. You might sometimes collaborate with other visual designers. You don't have to do everything yourself. You might have somebody who's doing the animation, somebody who's designing the components or illustrations or icons, and you collaborate with developers who finally use the coding language. They codify, they use to convert, or they bring in the technology, right, to execute the design that you have created, right? So that is what is required for a UX UI designer's job. And at AND, we teach beyond software. We start from fundamentals. It's not only Figma that you will learn. If you want to just learn Figma, there are other places from where you can learn. But if you want to learn how to build such products from the fundamental level, then we can be one of those places. And you learn by doing, which means that it is a demanding course. You won't be able to just listen to me talk about this and understand, and you can become aware of things, but you won't learn how to do it or make it. For that, you have to work hard with us, attend our sessions, work on assignments and projects, make mistakes, um, and what Shubhangi mentioned right at the beginning, and I'll discuss that. You have the flexibility of uh, going through stackable courses. If you're not very sure, start with the small certificate level course. If your interest remains, then proceed further to the diploma levels course, and you get career development and placement support, right? So these are the UX UI courses, 3 courses. One is a PG diploma, which is the most immersive and intense course for a year long, where it has 3 terms. We start with a foundation in visual design. So first you learn basics of visual design. Then in term 2, you learn the fundamentals of UX UI. And in the third one, you deep dive into UX UI complex projects, right? So it's a 1 year course. Uh, if you don't want to take such a long course, you can start with a certificate course where you learn the UX UI fundamentals and design process, and then move. If you want to continue, you can move and study for another 16 weeks to do your diploma, complete your diploma, right? And where you deep dive into UX UI and you do your capstone projects. For all these courses, classes happen twice in a week from 7 to 10 and 2 days a week, right? And on other days, you must keep aside about uh, uh, an hour and a half to work on your assignments, right? So, who can do this course? And I'm almost at the end of my presentation. This is my last slide. So, now would be a good time for you to put in your questions if you have any. Graduates from any field uh, who want to build a career in creative arts or problem solving. You may not come from a design background. You may be from an allied creative field. We get a lot of people who have done interior design, architecture, fashion design, textile design, people who've been working as graphic designers, whether they've had formal training or not, and now see within design they want to diversify or change their career path. Or you can be a tech professional who has been working in as a developer, uh, uh, creating products, but through the use of coding languages, but who now wants to learn design thinking so that they can conceptualize and not just convert products or concepts created by others and giving them shape through technology. So we get those people. A lot of BTechs come to us to do this course, right? And that's about it. Um, Thank you for your patience and for being with me. Uh, we're ready for any questions if you have any. Over to you, Shubhangi, to moderate the Q&A. However, I do not see any questions in the Q&A tab so far. Yeah.
So as Prachi ma'am said, if you have any questions, now is the time to put them in. Mhm.
We'll wait for a minute or so. If there are no
Yep.
questions, then we can call it a day early. Um, but in the meanwhile, Shubhangi, do you think you want to just share any information regarding the? Oh, by the way, our next batch starts in March.
Yes, I was just going to say that our next batch is starting on 21st of March. So if it's anybody is looking to apply for a UX UI design course, then now is the time to be doing that. I'll also put in our website link in the chat so that everybody can sort of go through our fee details, because these are usually the questions that we get a lot about fee and curriculum and software. So if you visit our website page, that should answer all your queries about that. Somebody is asking, can I pursue a graphic design course currently along with the UI UX course?
Uh, Technically you can, but or theoretically you can, but practically I would not encourage that. If you mean that you want to pursue a graphic design course and a UX UI course with us, if you're studying your graphic design course elsewhere, I don't know the intensity of it and I'm not going to comment on it. But to pursue a graphic design course and a UX UI course with us will be a challenge, uh, because I think we are quite intense and one course at a time is a good idea. Uh, if that's what you want to do, I would say that you do your so why don't you do the PG diploma
Yeah.
uh, with us, because it starts with fundamentals of graphic visual design, which is like graphic design, and then complete the UX UI. Or if you are really up for it, and we do have a couple of people who've done that, they first did their graphic design diploma with us and then did their UX diploma with us. So it became a year and a half long for them, but you can do that as well. If you're studying graphic design elsewhere, I won't I won't comment on it. Just keep the evenings for the UX course that you will do with us, and if you think that's manageable, then please go ahead, do it.
Okay. Uh, last call for more
I think they're
questions.
putting their questions in the
Chat?
chat.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Rahul is saying that he has 13 years of experience in graphic design. Can I do the UI UX course?
Yes, Rahul, you can. Um, Once you apply, you will also get a chance to interact with me through an interview, and that's also a good way for us to evaluate. But we do get such people who have 5 years, 6 years, 10 years of experience in graphic design, and now want to. We've also had people with 20 years of graphic design experience wanting to study UX UI. Uh, yeah, please do that.
Yeah. Uh, can I go for a diploma or a certificate to get a job in UI UX?
So the certificate level course is typically more like an exploratory course. You learn about the fundamentals. You also do add two projects to your portfolio, but they are of low complexity. So the diploma is a job ready level rather than a certificate. A certificate, sort of it does explain to you everything, but your portfolio is not that strong because you've done two projects of low to medium complexity, right? Having said that, the answer would be incomplete till I mean, sometimes people come with experience in the industry where they have done, a lot of, they were Figma operators and they could do a lot of UI screens earlier. So they understand that, or they've been digital marketing professionals and so on and so forth. So sometimes, in some cases, the certificate is also sufficient. But normally, for a job, we say that do a diploma. But if you're not sure whether you want to be a UX UI professional, sign up for a certificate, and that will be sufficient for you to gauge whether this is really what you want to do.
Sakti is asking, can you explain a little bit more about job placement?
So I am not very sure. Is it about the process of job placement or is it about job opportunities in the industry? Sakti, if I can request you to please clarify that, I'll answer accordingly. Do you mean job opportunities in the industry? You want me to elaborate on that, or do you want me to elaborate on the process of uh, job placement at And Academy? But while Sakti puts in, I'll answer one part of the question. So we have a dedicated career service team who network with the industry and have a contact with various recruiters. But we are not a placement agency. Yeah, you should not consider us as placement agency, but as a academic institution which runs industry or career oriented or job oriented courses. Yeah. Uh, we have a network of recruiters, right? So the CSD team, they also run an opt-in series of session which are optional on Saturdays, where they help you build your CV, your LinkedIn profile. They talk about a few of those things. Because in addition to having the skills and portfolio, you also need those elements, right? And then you sign up for a placement if you're interested to take placement through our CSD cell. Then whatever opportunities come their way, they will share it with you. If it matches your aspirations, you can apply, uh, and they will facilitate, or sharing your CV, sharing your portfolio, fixing up your interview. uh, Sometimes there is a assessment task that has to be done in the UX UI space. There is normally more than one round of interviews, so you'll have one round with this, one round with that. They will facilitate all of that, but ultimately it is about how you perform in that interview and assessment and how good your portfolio is, right? But they facilitate all of that. and that's about it. That's the process.
Yeah, and I would just like to add to what ma'am has already mentioned that our diploma and PG diploma courses come with a job guarantee, which just means that we have so much faith in our curriculum that we offer you a job guarantee that if you there's a star sign on the job guarantee base that if you also do your bit and uh, build your portfolio and attend regular classes and are one of those always present and students who contribute to the conversation in classes, then you can go ahead and then you can avail the job guarantee, which is that you will be placed within 6 months of graduation. Uh, yeah,
Like Shubhangi said, there are conditions applied,
there's
which means
conditions
that
applied.
you should have attended your classes, you should have performed to a certain level, which means and you should have a portfolio that is industry relevant, which means that which will include the projects that you've done as part of the course, like what you saw, the portfolios that you saw just now, and we've approved it that it is of this level, and then you have to apply to those places, so if you keep rejecting the options that they send, or if you don't work on your portfolio, uh, securing admission with and academy does not ensure job placement. Working with and academy during the course ensures job placement.
Yep. I
Okay.
think there is one more question. Janvi saying that we spoke about the difference between PG diploma and diploma course. Is it possible? Could I please request you to show us that the part of the
So, Janvi,
portfolio?
it's a good point, but I would request you to do this with your counselor. Right now, it will take me time to pull out a PG diploma portfolio. I did not sit ready with that link with me. But it's a good point, good feedback for me. In the future, I will keep one PG diploma portfolio link also ready with me. But you can always ask the counselor, admission counselor, and they will be able to share a portfolio with you. Ask them for a PG diploma UX portfolio, right?
That's it, I guess. We've reached the
Okay,
end of questions.
wonderful. So,
Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation, ma'am. Thank you everyone who stuck around till the end of this webinar. I hope you learned something and we'll be seeing you in class very, very soon. The classes for the next batch will begin after 21st of March. We'll be taking applications till then. So if you're looking to apply for the course, now is the time that you do it. Yeah, that's it for tonight. Bye-bye. Good night.
thank you, everybody.